surprises me still somehow. Yes.
Still surprises you to be live? Well, well, I mean, live, not alive.
Alive. I was good. There's a crucial distinction.
Crucial distinction. Yes. Well, hello, everyone. This is Evan Matthews.
I'm Adam Martin.
We are two of the co-founders of Macroverse and very excited to finally be talking Vogu today. Man, anyone that doesn't know us, like if you haven't been paying attention to what's been happening with the Vogu project over the last few months, or you just haven't bumped into us in particular, we are, again, co-founders of a company called Macroverse. We have recently acquired the Vogu project and are shepherding it and steering it in, I would say, not an entirely new direction, but perhaps a more focused direction. In that we believe there is a rich and expansive story universe at the core of the Vogu mythology, and very much a tip of the hat to Jason in particular, who, really is the original architect of what these characters look like, the feel and the vibe of the universe that the Vogu inhabit. None of this would be here if it wasn't for Jason's amazing art, which I think is what so many of us vibed with and fell in love with.
In
the project to begin with. And I think for us, one of the things we always look for when we work with NFT collections, and this is of the 4 projects that we've taken over, we love all of them, but one of the things that Vogu does so well is really suggests this world, suggests characters. And so from our point of view, as we look at the way that we'll build Vogu and the other universes and worlds of storytelling and characters and kind of the franchise building that we're doing here to create what we believe will be the next generation of worldwide entertainment franchises, where I very much put Vogu in that camp. As we look at these projects, that is what we're looking for. Hello, Cloud. We're looking for characters that suggest stories, that suggest a larger world. And I think the context for the conversation that we're going to have today, which is the most exciting part of all of this in my mind, is that you, as someone that owns a Vogu, or perhaps multiple Vogu, you own characters in this world. And that's the thing that's so unique in Web3 compared to traditional Hollywood. If you don't know us, we've been making content collectively for the past 75 cumulative years between the two of us and our third co-founder across every type of media that you could point at. And, that's always been very much I've got an idea, let's either put some financing together or have someone else come in and fund this idea. And now I've got permission to go make something, to go tell a story, write a script, make a show, whenever that is, make a comic even. And in this case, we look at the power of Web3 and rethinking the way that these franchises are made through the lens that there's the world of the Vogu that we kind of broadly understand that, so many of the kind of core concepts are already in place for. We've maybe put a little twist and spin on that already, which we'll talk a little bit about. But so many of these kind of fundamental ideas are already here. We have a sense of this, kind of playground that we're playing in, but you get to bring your own toys, your own characters to that playground and tell their stories. And I think that's what gets so interesting here. And I always, like to talk about this in the context of, there was a young artist in the 90s named Rob Liefeld. Rob Liefeld was hired by Marvel Comics to create originally the new take on the New Mutants, which turned into X-Force. And X-Force was a phenomenal success. Part of the success of that was him creating a whole new batch of characters. One of those characters is called Deadpool. And Deadpool, in and of himself, has become a multi-billion-dollar entertainment franchises from the films that we know, to animation, to toys, to Halloween costumes, you name it. There's a Deadpool thing out there just for you. I saw something yesterday where there's there's a new trailer for Marvel Snap, where Deadpool features prominently, even a kind of Mickey Mouse version of Deadpool and a cat version of Deadpool. It's very funny. But the important thing is that because Rob created that character and because of the deal that he had with Marvel, he gets a piece of Deadpool forever. A little percentage of all the revenue that is generated by Deadpool goes back to him. He doesn't own a piece of Marvel, but he owns that character, a piece of that character. And actually, very importantly, he doesn't own that character, but he has a percentage of the revenue from that character. Where this turns all that on its head is that you do own these characters. You own your Vogu in the context of this world. You actually own your Vogu to go do whatever you want with. If you want to make your, Vogu tire shop, by all means, we'd love to see it. But the opportunity that we have for you is to bring your Vogu into the core canonical universe, tell a story with that character. And the goal for us is that some of those stories become as meaningful as Deadpool is to the Marvel universe, that some of these stories are the genesis moment for characters that are resonating with the audience, the community, that help to flesh out and form the world of Vogu, the franchise that Vogu becomes, and that you, as the genesis of that character, as the creator of the story of that character, get to participate in all of the ways that that character goes on to become successful, both from an entertainment value standpoint and ultimately from a financial standpoint as well. So all of that is, kind of the details that we'll get into as far as how we, the kind of facilitate that process. But I think what we want to spend a little bit of time on today is just very simply, how do you do that? How do you take these characters that you own, create stories and ideas around them, submit those to us and to the community, and then what's that process going to look like to have those turn into stories that can then be brought out into the world, released, begin to generate ideally some revenue, and grow from there. So, if you don't know, we've gone through this process multiple times with other projects. It's something that we continue to refine and tweak. We're right now in the middle of actually doing this with the Wanderers project as well. But we've been just waiting for the moment, kind of chomping at the bit to bring this out into the Vogu community. So, Adam, do you want to talk a little bit about maybe just contextually? I think it's a good framework for people to kind of understand, not necessarily the minutia of how to write a script or any of those sorts of things. We'll get into that, but I think more importantly, just contextually, how might someone think about defining who their Vogu is, who their character is, in the context of this world? Like how might someone approach that just from a kind of thought process standpoint?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think a big thing for us, and we talked about this, and those of you, obviously, there's several people here who have heard us spout this several times before, which is great. The big thing we approach is who is this character? Where do they come from? What do they like? What do they want? What are they scared of? What are their big aspirations? What are their darkest fears? What are they proud of in themselves? What are they ashamed of in themselves? All of these little kind of pieces that come together to make all of us the people, the kind of characters in our own stories that we are. And I think so. If you're looking at Vogu in particular, it's okay. We know the genesis lore of Vogu. We know that they're Tars. They represent, they are the android real, inhabitants of a planet. Excuse me. I will preface this by saying, excuse me, I'm recovering from COVID for the third time, which is just great. But so my voice may go a little adolescent occasionally, and if I suddenly break off coughing, that's why I'm not just choking. So apologies.
You're laughing, but the
no,
time
it's fine.
That couldn't have been more perfect. I will preface this with.
So we know the setup for the world. We know that the Vogu as we know them, the Tars as we know them, exist on Earth, piloted remotely from the seeds, elsewhere around the solar system and around the galaxy,
and other planets.
And other places, exactly. They're, around the galaxy, exactly. They're all off in different places.
Allow me to interrupt for 1 second. I apologize because I was just thinking through this before we got on the call. So I think as you're thinking about this character, this is a slightly unique proposition from some of these other things. And you actually have two characters in a sense. So you've got the robot, the tar that you have in your wallet, in your collection. Perhaps you've got mutts as well, which could play a role here. But you've also got, who is this?
The person controlling it.
That's over here floating in space in a seed somewhere. And I want to make sure that as you think about what stories can be told, that we're taking those two things into account, because I think part of our goal here is to shine a light on corners of the world that we might not otherwise get to explore. And so if you're someone that's kind of interested in like, what is life like on a seed ship, which is, for anyone that doesn't know this lore, like that's where the humans are. They're in these kind of big, bunker kinds of, star cruisers, and then are able to tether their consciousness over into these robotic bodies. You've got both of those things to play with. So just forgive me for interjecting that.
Yeah, no, not at all. And it's absolutely, it was kind of where we were, where I was going to go. Is, you are playing with these two things. And so obviously that is the fun of this. And so I think, there is the one way, obviously, which is these TARs, wherever they may be and whatever planet they're on, exploring unknown worlds, obviously operating, operating in suburban life in some weird environment on Earth and anything in between. I mean, there's a ton of fun to be had with that. And then absolutely, there is the kind of human originator of that. There is the human behind that thing. And what are they like in real life? Is their TAR a true representation of them, or is actually the TAR the kind of best version of them? Is the TAR doing things that they would never do if they were on a planet in an environment themselves? I think there's actually a layer of kind of meta storytelling ability here that is very, very cool and gets, I think, very interesting with all this. Excuse me. And so that's the first thing, is kind of looking at this character or these characters that you have and thinking about who they are, what do they want, all the things we just mentioned. We do actually have some kind of worksheets that we built up that starts to define some of this stuff, if that's what you're interested in. And then the next part of the process is thinking about, great, I kind of have an idea about who this character is and what they want and what they're doing. What is a short story that I can tell with this? And Evan, you want to talk a little bit more? Because we've literally just gone through this with the Wanderers project, and it was fantastic. I mean, we're still getting pieces of art in for that. There's a couple more kind of left hanging out there. But the array of ideas and worlds and concepts and thoughts and approaches that are kind of coming in from the community has been amazing. And then within that, there's also room, if you've got a bunch of TARs that you love, but you don't really have an idea about the characters or what to do with them, there's also going to be all sorts of interesting and fun kind of casting things that we can be doing with them as well. So a more kind of passive approach, but still getting your TARs, your collection in print or in pixel or whatever we want to call it.
In pixels, and ultimately very likely in print.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so I think, anyone that's gone through this process with us before, we're going to try a couple little tweaks here. And I think it's one of the things that is fun about this is, we get to kind of continue to refine this process where it is the most approachable for everyone to participate in. I think our goal is to make this something that's fun and engaging for the whole community, not just a handful of people that, kind of get chosen to have their stories, told in this first round. So we're going to try a couple things, and I will preface that by saying, I'll preface that by saying, we're also very open to feedback in this process. So this is very much, we are here to help shepherd this. I will say, we've got a lot of experience, figuring out how to put all these pieces together, but we also see this as a very collaborative process. So as we go through this together, we're very open to feedback, very open to other ideas. We want those ideas. It will only make this better and stronger through this process. But as we're thinking about it right now, we're going to, first of all, do something which we've never done before, which is we're going to do this whole process in public on Twitter or X.
Yep.
So instead of doing
I
it
refuse to call it X. It's Twitter. It's bloody Twitter. I'm being a Luddite, but yes.
Yes. Well, just give it a few years, then no one will know what you're talking about.
This is true. Yeah.
But yes, it's weird. But anyway, yes. So we will do this in public on Twitter X. And we'll still very much be available in our Discord to answer questions, to give feedback, to have the conversations that we want to have more one-on-one or personally or in small groups. But I think having this be something that people can really publicly see as we go through the whole process of, from ideas to finished art, I think will be a fun way to expose this to more people. The second thing that we're going to do is, as Adam said, we're going to have kind of two flavors of what you can do through this process. So one is you're someone that has a very clear idea for a story for your character or characters, and we'll want you to present that concept initially in a relatively high level. And then as we get further down the road, more and more granularly, we'll help you develop that concept into something that becomes a short comic. So I don't know if we said already, but these will start as short comics.
Yes, we might not have done actually. Yes, you're right. We talked about comics, but yes.
Yes, so these will start as short comics and then go on from there. And then the second thing is, if you're not someone that sees yourself as someone that wants to particularly write a short, or maybe you're just want a more kind of passive way of participating, then just posting your characters in the threads that we're going to set up will allow other people to identify particular tars or mutts that they might want to utilize in their stories. And so being able to kind of cross-pollinate your own characters with other characters from the community as background characters, perhaps as characters that are doing something together. Like, I think we want to really encourage that opportunity to cast from the whole community for the stories that the people that do really want to focus on the storytelling can utilize, and will help again facilitate that process. So then basically what will happen is, after this call, after this stream, I'll put up 2 Twitter threads. We'll pin them on the Vogu profile, so they'll be easy to find. This video will be in that thread, so you'll have this to refer back to. And essentially, we're just going to ask you a pretty simple question. We're going to say, post your character or characters and give us a really simple concept for who that character is, or a simple story that they would want to go on as a way to introduce that character in the context of the Vogu universe. And there's a lot of room to play here. So I think, what I think is so exciting about this, and what we've seen in this process, is that I think lean into the thing that's the most interesting to you about this world. So if the thing that you love is the kind of street art, party vibe, like, what's a story that kind of leans into that your tar could be, at a rave on the third planet from the, Noctar Nebula out in some galaxy that we haven't discovered yet, that becomes, maybe this is the most exclusive party that, anyone could ever get into, and you've got to have a particular type of tar to, get in, or it's a tar that has always wanted to go there. They've heard rumors of this, secret event, and, if only they could get the gold sunglasses, they could, go there, whatever it is. So, I think there's everything from that to, man, like, I'm so freaking claustrophobic living in this bunk bed on the Seed, and my tether is down for the 3rd time this week because of this damn, space storm that's happening over here, and the solar flares are not letting me, get out of this thing, and I'm going crazy, and, I'm going to rip my own face off, or perhaps yours. So I think leaning into the things that you find interesting is always a very good way to approach this storytelling process. Not having to be overly ambitious for, trying to create something that's huge, unless you want to, but really, like, what are the things that resonate with you? Why do you like this collection? Why do you like this story? Why do you like this world? And finding some little piece of that you can grab onto is, I think, the best way to kind of approach this initial exercise, especially because this first round, we're going to be keeping these pretty contained as very much short stories. So these are 2-page comics. That basically means at the end of the day, you've got somewhere around 12 to 14, 15
maybe
panels at
14,
the
yeah.
most. And so, we'll get into those specific details as we identify which stories are going to move forward into production. But just so you know, again, we're going to be here to kind of help and shepherd this whole process. There's nothing you need to worry about at this kind of first stage. It's just, who is your character? What's interesting to you? What piece of this universe do you want to explore? And another way to think about that is, what's a moment in time that matters for this character? We can probably all identify moments in our own lives that are kind of seared into our brains as, memories that, we went this way instead of that way. Maybe it was a traumatic event, maybe it was a very happy event, but, something that, I like to think of, there are a handful of moments in my life where it's like I can almost peek around the corner and say, like, if I had done that instead of this, my whole life would be different.
Mm-hmm.
One of those for me is, when I was just graduating college, I was about to move to San Francisco and was pretty clearly headed towards working on the Star Wars prequels and doing concept art. And then I found out that Christmas that, a few things were happening in my family that were something that I wanted to be there for. My dad was diagnosed with cancer, found out my stepmom was cheating on him, so like all happened in this one Christmas. And instantly I was like, okay, I'm not going there. I'm going here to support the family and, be there and do these other things. And everything that's happened since then is very directly a result of me moving there instead of here. Like, that would have been a totally different life. So that kind of pivotal moment in someone's journey can also be a place to focus, for this kind of a short story. And obviously, finding a way to make that a simple, series of moments that tell a story, but that's what we're here for, to help do that. Once you submit these things through this Twitter thread, we'll have a period of time where the whole community can come in and essentially vote on which ones they want to see go further into production. We're going to do 6 in this first batch. So we'll identify 6 stories. And basically that will be the ones that get the biggest number of likes.
Yep.
And we'll then work with you to hone and shape those stories into the format that we need them for comics. We will bring incredible comic artists to the table to illustrate those stories. And then we'll package them and release them initially through the Macroverse mobile app, and then on from there, potentially either as other digital collectible editions, ultimately potentially as print. There are other places they can go from there, but we will guarantee they will at least come out through the mobile app, and everyone will get to see them, out in the world that way, including some subscription revenue that becomes available by doing that. So again, we'll get into all those details as we go through the process a little bit further down the line, or one-on-one with the people that, go into production in this round. What am I forgetting?
I think the other part of it is just, if you are someone who just has a bunch of really cool Vogu avatars or TARs, like, great, what do we want to do with them? We'll put up do we want to do this? Because again, this is the first time we've done this visibly, so bear with us because we are thinking through this stuff as we speak.
Yeah.
I think the idea would be to put a separate thread up. People can just submit their TARs in that thread as extras. And so, or they can be in part of the kind of general collection. And so someone else who may have an idea for one of their characters, but is looking for something else, can go in and communicate and say, hey, Larry, can we team up and can I use your TAR for my piece? And then that would become a kind of joint venture between those two things. And that story then becomes that. But obviously also, especially if we're in and around the world in general, we know there are a bunch of a bunch of these other beings, these other TARs around there. So there's we can obviously always make them up. However, it's fun if they do come from A, B, C, D collectors as well, because I do think that just supports the community. Everyone enjoys it. Everyone gets a kick. I mean, I've spent 20-something years making television, and it's always amazing how excited extras get when they're on screen next to the person or with the star or with whatever. And it's really cool. There's something really fun about being on screen and being like, oh, that's me. Hey, look at that. It's cool. And
That's
so
great.
probably won't be quite the same as that, but we want to generate that vibe as we develop this world out and as we bring all these elements together to kind of expand this universe.
Yeah. Well, and here's, we all know this about Jason's art. They all look awesome. So,
Yes.
you never know if it's going to be, Vogu 1927 in the background of panel 4 in, Malloy's story. That is the one that, someone goes like, oh man, I need to make a toy of that guy, or, whatever.
Yeah.
So, it's just the ability to get them more out into the world in the context of something beyond just the NFTs. As much as we love the collection, we think this is a way to build on top of the fact that you own these characters and they live in this world. And now we can build this world into something bigger altogether.
And also just to say specifically the way we handle this, because we all aware there's all sorts of SEC concerns and revenue share and there's a whole lot of stuff around the Web3 crypto space, especially at the moment. The way we avoid any of those problems is we do a direct licensing agreement with you for your character for this use. So that way it's like, great. It's the same way as you could license my image or a cup of coffee that I have or whatever, a piece of art that I create. You own it. We license it. We pay you revenue share based on that license. That's how all this stuff works.
Exactly. Very clean. Very
clean. Keeps it going. We are right now. It's all kind of. It's like a genuine, it's an agreement that'll be going to and fro. We're exploring ways to do all that on chain as well, just to make it even easier and to keep the kind of for those people that want to stay anon can totally stay anon, but still participate and have fun in this.
Yeah.
So we think we found a solution to that, but we need to dig into that a little bit more. But
yes. we are working on that part of it. Yes.
Yes.
But yes, either way, we'll make it as seamless and as possible. We'll help, kind of shepherd this all through production. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be really awesome. I can't wait to see, one of the things that, you'll have to take our word for if you haven't seen it in Bushido's or Deadtown or Wanderers or the other ones that we've done this with is, because these are short stories, the other thing that's so cool about that is it makes it very easy for us to attract an incredible array of artists. And so getting to see the different interpretations of your characters and the world through the lens of, some just top comics artists and talents is just so cool. Cause, as we love Jason, and Jason kind of sets the template for what does this world look and feel like. And then we get to let other people come in and play and bring their own spin to it as well. And we just get this kind of much bigger than the sum of its parts, kind of experience of what the world is, which is just so cool to see come together.
And of course, it never hurts to have other people out there talking about the project too. And that's, it's not the primary consideration, but it's definitely nice to have kind of extra evangelists and ambassadors out there known in their own kind of art spaces, evangelizing a project. It was great.
We'll take it.
Yes.
So I know Jason was going to try to join us today as well. It looks like he might not be able to make it. I just got a message from him that he's putting his baby down, which definitely takes precedence over us at the moment. But I will tease. We haven't got this fully committed yet, but I will tease that one of these shorts may also be drawn by him. So just as a little extra carrot. I think they would be incredibly cool to see one of these done by him as well. And to that end, I thought we could kind of approach the wrap up of this first conversation before we open it up for any questions. If you haven't seen the short that we did with Jason announcing this reboot and kind of expansion of the world, in comic form, if you look at the Twitter, if you look at the Vogu Twitter, the animated version of this that we did is pinned at the top of our profile, the Vogu profile. But we also did a comic version of it, which is on the Macroverse app. And so you can get a sense of what your stories will feel like in this format. That'd be worth just kind of tapping through that and showing that real quick. So this is the Macroverse app that I have pulled up on my iPad so that I can more easily stream it. I'm just going to, come in here. And the cool thing about our format is if you haven't experienced it, it is the best digital comics format that's ever been created. I'm just going to stop caveating that at all because it's just the truth. And so by tapping on the screen, I advance the story. And here we go, kind of moving through. We find Traxy in his office. I'm not going to read it to you. You can go download the Macroverse app at iOS or Android on the app stores and read it yourself. I hope you will do that, by the way. And if you are a Vogu holder, you can also come into the Macroverse Discord and get a free subscription to the app through one of the channels in there. So if you need help with that, let us know. We'll point you in the right direction. But here we are, we find Traxy in his office. Something is happening. There's some commotion coming outside the door. He's a little concerned about it, but he's got this. Everything's under control. He's feeling confident, and then boom, something's coming. And through the smoke, we find some mysterious Vogu, including one that we haven't really seen before. He tries to calm them down. It's all good. No problem. I'm sure we can get to the bottom of this. But this little countdown timer happening in his eye, what is that all about? One of the Vogu here who just came in. Sorry, we're out of time. What does that mean? Shoot him in the head. So I'm sorry. That was Traxy. The end of the CEO reign has arrived, and these new characters are here. Well, what have they found? Something. It seems like a similar color to that countdown timer. There probably could be some relationship there. And wait a minute, what is this big? Wait, that's not a Vogu at all. That's a person in a Vogu suit. We didn't even know that could happen in this world, but guess what? It can. So this is the little twist. If you haven't been up on where we're going with the lore, there are humans now in this world as well who are outside of the seeds. So if you want to include something about that in the stories that you want to tell, basically the simple concept of that is, number one, we relate to humans. So having some human faces in there is not a bad idea. Mm-hmm. And number two, if you imagine a world where everything is toxic and your only way to go out into the universe after 50, 70, 100 years, after multiple generations, is tethered to a robot, it seems reasonable to me that a group of people rise up over time that say, I don't want that. I want some other kind of a life. And so these are those people. We have a lot of ideas around where that goes, but rather than putting those on you, I'd love to know what you think about that concept. So they realized they got what they came for. Nano, who is the Vogu here, has been able to now take control of Vogu corporate headquarters and is rebooting the system, which, multiple meanings there. So that was the initial launch that we did, but we also did it both to kind of introduce this new concept and also to set the stage for what we're doing here right now, to kind of show this example of what this starts to look and feel like. So that one was a 4-page comic. Yours will be, half the length in this initial
3 pages, I believe.
Is it 3 pages? You might.
It was only 3 pages.
Oh, you're right. You're
so
right.
I think, and I was just about to say that for point of reference, what we just saw was a 3-page comic.
Yeah.
There are examples of 2 pages up on both on our Discord, but we've been doing a ton, like we said, with the kind of Wanderers Discord. So there's a lot of examples floating around, and we can certainly put some of those together and show them so that people know what they're getting into. Yeah,
exactly.
Directly.
But I think, again, at this stage, keep it simple. Oh, hey, just what we were hoping for. And the man himself.
Hello.
What's up, man? Have you been able to hear any of this, or you're in baby
world?
No,
I was in baby world, but I jumped on. How you guys doing?
We're doing well.
If it helps, I can cry loudly and throw my feet around just so you feel at home.
I feel like if you start, Jason's just gonna end the stream right now. So I just got into bed. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Great.
Well.
I love the skateboard behind you.
Oh, thanks.
Super cool.
We were traveling, and then we all ended up getting sick. So we're kind of just all recovering from that. But besides that, we're doing good.
Excellent.
How you guys?
Good. So we were just talking about kind of inviting people to submit their characters for a series of comic shorts. Nice. So I think kicking off with the first batch of 6, we're going to kind of do it all in Twitter. And then, we hadn't had a chance to commit you to anything around this, but I threw out the the notion that perhaps one of those shorts might be so lucky as to get the Jason Trinidad seal of approval and perhaps be drawn by you. So, you don't have to commit to that at this point, but just wanted to throw it out as a tease of a possibility for people that might choose to come play.
Awesome.
So I think, lots of fun to be had. We're basically going to have people come and just submit story ideas for their characters. The community will vote on a certain number of those that go into production. We'll bring a bunch of other artists to play as well. Then we'll get to kind of conduct this, kind of fun series of shorts that explore different areas in the world.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I'd love to know. I mean, seeing as we're talking about a little bit, obviously we just kind of went through the comic and the slight new change of direction, or at least the new addition into this universe of people and that kind of thing. I'd love to know, part of that was inspired by your drawings, obviously, that we were seeing. But how did you respond when like specifically Evan was like, "Hey, how about this?" Like, I would love to know what your reaction to that was.
Which part?
Just
people, having people in the world,
into the world, into the universe.
Oh yeah, I like that. I like bringing people into the world. It's a good reveal for to like expand things, and I think it's what a lot of people were hoping for, from what I hear.
Yeah.
I
know Malloy in the Discord was like, "What? Are we not going to talk about this?" So I love that there we got a little bit of both reaction. I think it's great. But I think for me it was, when we started talking about the kind of mutual love of Appleseed, I think that was the moment where it was kind of like, yes, this is the right direction. So
yeah. I mean, there's plenty of directions we could go, because like it's really expansive universe.
Yeah.
So even if there is some type of like hard sci-fi version that we could work with, as far as like the evolution of people, we could run with that as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that was the thing from my point of view, is like, it doesn't take anything away from everything that was already there. It just gives us even more, more room to play, more places to go, more elements of the universe to explore, different points of view. And nobody even knows the what is that thing that they took out of Traxy's head, which we'll get to, at some point as well. So
yeah, you gotta leave room for like adjustments, or like, you gotta leave it open.
Yeah.
Just for like possibilities,
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think especially as we're kind of exploring this next round of stuff very much with the community and with the holders, it's like kind of exploring what interesting, things come up in that from everybody else, and how that can be incorporated, and where we go from here. I think there's a lot of room for kind of community, involvement, feedback, all that good stuff, as far as taking it on for next steps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, we were kind of getting towards the wrap up of this kind of first session, but Jason, is there anything else that you would want to say to just the community in general, or, as you're thinking about, as we're inviting people to kind of think about who their characters are in the context of the universe, anything that you would add to any of that?
I did notice there's a post on like the kimonos. Like a manga version of that would be really cool. I just, that's been on my mind ever since I did that drawing early back in the day. And I like the idea of like the, keeping in mind the different factions, and like the features kind of determining what the storylines are. That was a lot of the lore that we set up early on in the Vogu universe. Because like we got the jackets, and people started like teaming up in their different factions. Yeah, I can't wait to see anything on that. So
yeah, totally. No, completely agree. And I think that there's another conversation we're having about the monk Vogus around a particular storyline as well. So I love the notion of both within the world that you already set up, but also within just where people naturally gravitate towards particular elements of the collection, being able to lean into like, oh, well, there are, even getting granular about like, oh, there are 5 of these things in the collection versus, 500 of these things in the collection. What does that suggest about the balance of, how things are distributed across the universe, or those sorts of things. I think there's a lot of fun places to kind of grab onto if that's if you're someone that has that kind of a brain like I sometimes.
Yeah, you kind of want to make sense of things, and kind of add like a logic to it. This is the most you could get out of like a generative collection, and trying to find like lore within the ratios. Like
there's somebody that wants to do that, I guarantee it. But I even love the fact that like there are some of these guys that have like drink cups, right? So I mean, theoretically your robot, your tar doesn't necessarily need a straw or even need a drink, and yet they have one. So there's something to be explored there if someone wants to do that. Like,
like the physical human rituals are still like, appreciated in this universe.
Exactly. You just don't see the next
different flavors of oil. I think it'll be great.
Yeah, exactly. Or the straw attaches to the port on the side of their head.
Right. Yeah, they're all open for interpretation, and that's what these stories could be used for. It's just like actually describing like the lore and like establishing certain functions that the TARS had that maybe we haven't even thought of.
Yeah, exactly.
I like leaving that open for the for the members stuff. But dojos for life. Yeah, people came up with the names too for a lot of these factions. The kimonos were all like part of the dojo.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
That's awesome.
Love it. The other thing, actually, which I was reading back to some of the original lore, and I was wondering, have you guys done anything specifically around the council, like the core concepts? Like there are as written right now, there are 50 members that are on this kind of interseed council. Is that expressed in the overall kind of concepts around this universe, but has there been anything that's been specifically done around that up to this point?
Each council member, I mean, if you're talking about like the council members, the original Vogus, each person had their own lore established for that, but I don't know what is still happening.
Well, I know we have actually a little bit of alpha in the next script for the next episode, which you and I need to go over and talk about. There is actually one of those council members included in that episode. So
nice.
That's something fun to do there.
But as far as like the gates, I think is what
the gates is what I'm thinking of. Yes.
Yeah. Nothing has really been established on that. Only that they are like pretty much like the elite. I'd like to think there's like an Illuminati kind of vibe to them, how they're kind of pulling the strings on everything.
Yeah.
And how it's like the power, but it's still like mysterious in exactly who they are and what they do and how they've, how much they're intertwined in like the culture of the Vogu. But that's all open to interpretation.
They're the AMPTP of the Vogu universe.
Yeah. Saxton and Sheldon were actually they were part of there were 2 of them on like the original art, and then I later on like separated them, and then we burnt the original. But they're kind of like a team attached at the hip, and they're like social media giants.
Nice. Love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. More transmissions from the outer reaches, I think, are coming around.
Yeah. They set the trends and stuff because like pop culture is still a thing.
Yeah.
In the Vogu verse. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, anything else then that I mean, this is all great stuff. I think, is there anything else that comes to mind of places that people might focus, or elements that haven't been explored that are interesting to you particularly?
I'm just excited for like certain factions to come in and shake things up a lot more. Because there is like a status quo to this universe, and any conflict in that is welcome.
Yeah.
To kind of like, maybe a rebellion or something like that, which we've already established, but like, let's add some more dimension to that. And I'd like to see just zealots of certain causes that are super hardcore on it.
Yes. Love it.
Yes.
Yeah. Zealots are never a bad thing.
Yeah.
In this context.
Let's stop. I was going to say, in fiction,
yeah.
they're great.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In fiction, it's great. Yeah.
Fiction, they're great. Agreed. All right. Awesome. Well, I think we've given a good kind of context for people to play inside of. So just, I think to recap next steps, keep watching the Vogu Twitter /X profile. I'm going to post 2 threads within the next hour or so after we get off this call. So one will be the main, I have an idea for a story around my character thread. And so basically you'll post a picture of your character and a little breakdown of who you think that character is in this universe. And then we'll, build on that from there. And then thread number 2 will be, I've got some badass Jason Vogu art, and I don't have any idea who this character is, but I'd like them to be considered to be included in these different stories. And we'll kind of consider that more of a casting pool for I'm making my characters available for other people to play with, in their stories as well. So I think those will be the 2 threads that we'll put up. I'll pin them at the top of the profile when they arrive, and I'll make as much of a thing of it as I can on Twitter and X, but just keep an eye on the profile for those 2 threads. And then I think let's spend the next week kind of getting stuff put into those threads. We'll come in and give feedback. I think Jason, all of us should go in there and give, any feedback, or just kind of iterate. You guys give feedback to each other. Let's make this as much of a fun, kind of community engaging thing as we possibly can with each other and beyond. And then we'll have another one of these sessions within the next week or 2 where we'll break down, kind of where we're at in that process, probably highlight some of the ones that are kind of getting the most love, let's say, kind of from the community. And then shortly thereafter, we'll pick 6 to move into production from there. And we'll get into the real weeds and details of, how do we take this from concept to final short and all that good stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Killer. All right. Well, thank you guys. Jason, I'm so glad you got to jump on at the end.
Thank you. Yes.
Extremely great. And lots more to come. Let's make sure we connect on the next episode of the comic. And I've got an outline for you to talk through, which I think is going to be very cool.
Awesome.
And we'll go from there.
Cool.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Excellent.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Later.